I proposed to Melissa after 3 amazing years together. She was everything I wanted in a life partner, and our wedding was only 5 months away. There was just one issue that kept nagging at me. Tyler, her male best friend since college, seemed to occupy a place in her life that made me increasingly uncomfortable. They texted constantly, had inside jokes I was not part of, and she would drop everything whenever he called. When I finally expressed my concerns about their closeness, Melissa's response stunned me. "You are just being insecure. Tyler was in my life long before you, and if you make me choose, I will always pick him." Before I share what happened next in this painful journey, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below, and hit subscribe if you have ever had that gut feeling something was not right in your relationship. I met Melissa at my cousin's birthday party 4 years ago. She walked in with confidence that immediately caught my attention. Her curly brown hair framed a face that lit up when she smiled, and her laugh was genuine and warm. We connected over our shared love of hiking and old movies, talking for hours in a corner while the party continued around us. By the end of the night, I knew I wanted to see her again. Our relationship progressed naturally from there. First dates turned into weekend getaways. Casual conversations evolved into deep discussions about our hopes and dreams. Melissa was passionate about her work as a graphic designer, and I admired her creativity and dedication. Working as an engineer myself, I appreciated her different perspective on the world. I first heard about Tyler about 2 months into our relationship. Melissa mentioned him casually as her best friend from college. They had met in freshman year, and had remained close ever since. I thought nothing of it at the time. I had female friends myself and understood that men and women could share meaningful platonic bonds. The first time I met Tyler was at a group dinner Melissa organized. He seemed friendly enough, though I noticed how his eyes followed her around the room. He was tall, athletically built, with the kind of casual charm that put people at ease. When he talked about their college adventures, there was an underlying intimacy to his stories that made me slightly uncomfortable, but I brushed it off as my own insecurity. Early in our relationship, there were small signs that Tyler held a unique position in Melissa's life. She would answer his calls during our dates, something she did for no one else. Plans would sometimes change if Tyler needed her for something. Once we had to leave a concert at intermission because Tyler had broken up with his girlfriend and needed emotional support. He has been there for me through everything Melissa explained when I gently questioned these interruptions. Tyler is like family to me. I tried to be understanding. After all, close friendships are valuable, and I did not want to be the jealous boyfriend who came between her and a meaningful relationship. So, I accepted his presence in our lives, even as I noticed how often his name came up in conversations. When I proposed to Melissa on our 3rd anniversary during a sunset hike, to the spot where we had our first real adventure together, her joy seemed complete and genuine. She called her parents first with the news, and then immediately Tyler. I tried not to read anything into the fact that he knew about our engagement before my own family did. As we began planning our wedding, subtle changes in Melissa's behavior started to emerge. She became more protective of her phone, sometimes turning it face down when I entered the room. The frequency of her meetups with Tyler increased, often for reasons that seemed vague when I asked about them. "Just catching up," she would say. "Wedding stress relief." My discomfort grew when Tyler appointed himself as some kind of unofficial wedding consultant. He had opinions about everything from our venue to our first dance song. Melissa valued his input over mine on many decisions, claiming he just had better taste. Still, I tried to remain reasonable. Wedding planning is stressful, and Melissa had always described herself as someone who needed her friend's support system. If Tyler was helping her manage the pressure, perhaps I should be grateful rather than suspicious. But that rationalization became harder to maintain when Tyler began to insert himself into aspects of our relationship that should have remained private. He knew about arguments we had. He weighed in on where we should buy our first home. Once during a dinner with friends, he referenced something about our future plans for children that I had only discussed with Melissa the night before. My friends began to notice the strange dynamic too. My best friend Derek pulled me aside after a group barbecue where Tyler had been particularly territorial around Melissa. "Are you okay with how close those two are?" Derek asked carefully. "From the outside looking in, it seems like there are some boundary issues there." I brushed off his concern, not wanting to seem like a controlling partner. But his words stayed with me, reinforcing my own growing unease. 6 months before our wedding date, the signs became impossible to ignore. Melissa and Tyler had begun training for a half marathon together, which meant early morning runs 3 times a week, and frequent shopping trips for running gear. When I suggested joining them, there was always some reason why it would not work out. We run at different paces, Melissa explained. And besides, this is just our thing, you know. Our thing. Those words stung more than they should have. Increasingly, it seemed like Melissa and Tyler had many things that excluded me despite the fact that I was supposed to be her life partner. One evening, I came home early from work to find them sprawled on our couch, Melissa's head resting comfortably on Tyler's shoulder as they scrolled through photos on her phone, laughing intimately. They jumped apart when they noticed me, their reaction making the moment feel even more inappropriate. We were just looking at possible honeymoon destinations, Tyler explained, as though it was perfectly normal for him to be involved in planning our romantic getaway. That night, I finally voiced my concerns directly. I think Tyler crosses boundaries sometimes, I said carefully as Melissa and I prepared for bed, and it makes me uncomfortable how much input he has in our relationship. Melissa's face immediately hardened. Tyler is my best friend. He has been there for me through everything, and he just wants to help us create the perfect wedding. But some things should just be between us, I persisted, like our honeymoon planning. That feels private. You are being insecure, Melissa replied dismissively. There is nothing inappropriate about my friendship with Tyler. You need to trust me more. The conversation ended there with my concerns unaddressed, and Melissa clearly irritated, but the incidents continued to pile up. I discovered that Tyler had a key to our apartment, something Melissa had never mentioned. When I asked about it, she became defensive. He has had that since before we lived together. Sometimes he feeds my fish when I am away. What is the big deal? The breaking point came during a dinner party we hosted for our closest friends. Tyler arrived early, acting as though he was the co-host. Throughout the evening, he told stories about Melissa that I had never heard, emphasizing their deep connection and shared history. Several times he made comments that subtly undermined me. Remember that guy you dated in senior year who was also an engineer, Tyler said loudly across the table. What was his name, Matthew Mark? He was so much more outgoing than most engineers. Melissa laughed uncomfortably. That was nothing serious. And not all engineers are the same, Tyler. Well, this one turned out okay, Tyler replied, gesturing toward me with his wine glass, even though he cannot handle spicy food like that Mexican place we love. It was a small comment, but it highlighted another thing they shared that excluded me. By the end of the night, the dynamic was clear to everyone present. Tyler acted like he had some claim on Melissa that preceded and perhaps superseded mine. When our guests left, Tyler stayed behind, helping Melissa clean up while engaging her in a conversation about people I did not know. I felt like a stranger in my own home. After he finally left, I confronted Melissa more firmly than before. This is not working for me, I said. The way Tyler behaves around you, the way he inserts himself into our relationship, it crosses lines. Melissa's response was immediate and harsh. You are jealous of a friendship you cannot understand. Tyler and I have history. He knows me better than anyone, better than I do. Your future husband, I asked, hurt evident in my voice. In some ways, yes, she admitted without hesitation. He has known me longer, been through more with me. I feel like there are 3 people in this relationship sometimes, I said, and I am not comfortable with that going into our marriage. Her next words changed everything. Tyler has been in my life since before I met you, and he will be there after. If you make me choose between you and him, I will always choose him. That is just how it is. The room seemed to freeze around us. Had my fiancé really just told me that another man would always come before me, that his place in her life was more secure than mine, despite our upcoming vows? I am not asking you to end your friendship. I clarified, my voice steady despite my racing heart. I am asking for appropriate boundaries. Your definition of appropriate comes from your insecurity, Melissa countered. There is nothing wrong with how Tyler and I are. You are the one with the problem. We went to bed angry that night, the issue unresolved. The following weeks were tense, with Melissa spending even more time with Tyler almost defiantly. When I suggested couples counseling to work through the issue before our wedding, she dismissed the idea as unnecessary. We do not need a stranger telling us how to live our lives, she said. You just need to get over this jealousy thing. 3 months before our wedding day, I discovered something that confirmed my worst fears. Melissa had left her laptop open while she took a shower, and a notification popped up from Tyler. I had never been the type to snoop, but the preview text made my heart stop. Last night was amazing. I cannot stop thinking about how you... The rest was cut off. My hand hovered over the laptop, mind racing. Was I about to cross a line by reading their private conversation? But if my suspicions were correct, hadn't they already crossed a much bigger line? I clicked on the message. What followed was an explicit conversation about a physical encounter that had apparently happened the previous evening when Melissa had told me she was working late on a project deadline. There were details about their physical connection, references to previous encounters and plans for when they could meet again. My world collapsed around me. The betrayal was not just a suspicion anymore. It was right there in black and white, undeniable and raw. When Melissa came out of the shower, I was sitting on the edge of our bed, her laptop open beside me. She immediately knew from my expression that everything had changed. "You went through my private messages," she asked, anger being her first reaction rather than guilt or shame. "Is that really what you are concerned about right now?" I replied quietly. "Not the fact that you have been cheating on me with Tyler." Her defense mechanisms kicked in instantly. "It is not what you think. Tyler and I have a complicated relationship. Those messages are just how we joke around." "Do not insult my intelligence," I said, standing up. "I read everything, Melissa. The details about what you did together, when and where it happened, how long it has been going on. This is not a joke." She shifted tactics. "Okay, so maybe something happened, but it is just physical. It does not mean anything. It does not change how I feel about you or our future." Her words felt like a physical blow. "It does not mean anything. You have been lying to me, sneaking around behind my back with the one person I expressed concerns about, and you think that does not mean anything. You pushed me toward him with your constant suspicion and jealousy," she countered. "If you had just trusted me and not been so insecure about our friendship, this might not have happened." The audacity of her attempting to blame me for her betrayal cleared any remaining doubt from my mind. This relationship could not be saved. The woman I thought I knew, the future I had planned, it was all built on deception. "The wedding is off," I said with surprising calmness. "I will be contacting everyone today to let them know." Melissa's expression finally showed panic. The reality of the consequences seemed to hit her all at once. "You cannot be serious. We can work through this. Couples have survived worse. Maybe some have," I agreed. "But I will not marry someone who puts another man first, lies to my face, and then blames me for her choices." I packed an overnight bag and headed for the door. Melissa followed, her confident facade crumbling as she realized I was actually leaving. "Where are you going? We need to talk about this," she demanded. "I'm going to stay with Derek for a few days while I figure out next steps. There is nothing more to talk about." As I reached for the door handle, my phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. "Melissa just called me crying. We need to talk, man. There are things you do not understand about our relationship." The audacity of his message solidified my resolve. I turned back to Melissa. "Tyler just texted me. Apparently there are things I do not understand about your relationship. Care to enlighten me now, or should I continue finding everything out on my own?" Her face paled. "What did he say exactly? Does it matter? The fact that your first call when I discovered your affair was to him rather than trying to fix things with me tells me everything I need to know." I left our apartment with Melissa calling after me, promising explanations and changes that were too late to matter. In my car, I blocked both their numbers, needing space to process the shock and make clear-headed decisions about what came next. That evening, from Derek's guest room, I sent out a brief email to our wedding guests. "Due to unforeseen circumstances, Melissa and I have decided to cancel our upcoming wedding. We appreciate your understanding during this difficult time and ask for privacy as we navigate this change in our lives." Within hours, my phone was flooded with messages from concerned family and friends. I answered only those from my closest circle, sharing the painful truth with them, while asking them to respect my need for space. The next day, Tyler showed up at Derek's house. Through the peephole, I could see him looking simultaneously defiant and concerned. Derek answered while I stayed out of sight. "He does not want to talk to either of you right now," Derek said firmly. "He is overreacting," Tyler replied. "Melissa and I have had a special connection since before he came along." He knew what he was getting into. No decent person expects their fiancée to be sleeping with her best friend, Derek shot back. "Leave now before this gets ugly." After Tyler left, Derek looked at me with sympathy. "I always thought there was something off about their relationship, but I never imagined it was this bad. I am sorry, man." Later that week, I returned to the apartment when Melissa was at work to collect more of my belongings. What I found was Tyler's presence already established there. His jacket hung by the door. His running shoes sat next to hers. A photo of them that had previously been hidden away now stood proudly on the bookshelf. It was as though he had been waiting in the wings all along, ready to step fully into my place the moment I was gone. Perhaps he had been gradually doing so throughout our entire relationship. The weeks following the canceled wedding were some of the most painful of my life. Explaining the situation to my parents, returning gifts, dealing with non-refundable deposits, all while processing the betrayal of the woman I had planned to spend my life with. The hardest part was wrestling with self-doubt. Had I been unreasonably jealous? Should I have handled things differently? Was there truth to Melissa's claim that my insecurity had pushed her away? My sister Julia helped me gain perspective. A person who respects their partner does not keep someone around who undermines their relationship, she told me. And they certainly do not cheat and then blame their partner for it. This is not on you. Gradually, I established a new normal. I found an apartment across town, threw myself into work projects that had been on the back burner, and reconnected with friends I had seen less frequently because Melissa had not enjoyed their company. 3 weeks after our breakup, I heard from mutual friends that Melissa and Tyler were officially dating, confirming what I had already suspected. They had not even bothered with the pretense of a reasonable time gap between our relationship and theirs. The timeline made it clear to everyone in our social circle that there had been significant overlap. Surprisingly, this public confirmation brought me a sense of validation rather than additional pain. People who had initially been neutral about our breakup reached out to express their support. Even Melissa's cousin sent me a message. I always thought their friendship was inappropriate. You deserved better. 6 months after what would have been our wedding day, I had dinner with my friend group for the first time since everything happened. The conversation inevitably turned to Melissa and Tyler. They broke up, my friend Samantha mentioned casually. Apparently Tyler was not ready for the level of commitment Melissa wanted once she actually had him full-time. I felt no satisfaction at this news, only a sense of closure. Their relationship problems were no longer my concern. I had moved on to building a life based on mutual respect and healthy boundaries. That must have been incredibly painful, but I am glad you found out before the wedding, she said. For what it is worth, I have male friends, but there are clear boundaries. You never have to worry about that with me. Those words meant more than she could know. Not because I wanted a guarantee against betrayal, but because she recognized the importance of boundaries without me having to ask for them. A year after discovering Melissa's affair, I ran into her at a local coffee shop. The initial shock gave way to a surprisingly calm conversation. She seemed different, more reflective. I handled everything so badly, she admitted. I have done a lot of thinking since then, and I realize how unfair I was to you. The boundaries with Tyler were inappropriate from the beginning, and I should have acknowledged that instead of making you feel crazy for noticing. I appreciated her apology, but recognized it did not change anything. I hope you find what you are looking for, Melissa, I said sincerely as we parted ways. I have. That evening, sitting on my porch with Katie as we planned an upcoming weekend trip, I reflected on the journey of the past year. The pain had been necessary, a catalyst for growth that might never have happened otherwise. I had learned to trust my instincts to require respect in relationships, and to recognize when someone was worth fighting for versus when it was time to walk away. The experience taught me that standing up for yourself does not mean controlling others. It means having the courage to say, "This does not work for me," and the strength to accept the consequences of that statement. Sometimes those consequences involve loss, but they also create space for something better to enter your life. What about you? Have you ever had to set boundaries in a relationship that others thought were unreasonable? Would you stay with someone who told you they would always choose someone else over you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences. And if you know someone struggling with similar relationship challenges, share this video with them. Sometimes knowing you are not alone in your experiences makes all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, prioritizing your self-respect is never the wrong choice, even when it leads you down an unexpected path.